Okay, let's take a look at Wings of War there. This is, I'm always interested in World War I aircraft games. This one was somewhat disappointing though. At first it seemed tremendously exciting and innovative. You know, this whole idea of, I got these little cards, they're not random or anything, and I get to program my move out. Cards for the damage, so I don't have to worry about charts and tables for anything like that. But when it comes down to it, this is kind of a pale substitute for something like Blue Max. Blue Max was a fantastic game to play out kind of larger scale battles. Now, could you do that with this? Yeah, I guess you could. In the sense that if you bought yourself a bunch of these different boxes, some expansions, so you have a decent number of decks, so you can have lots of planes flying at once in one big nasty dogfight. You know, say 4 to 6 planes on a side or something. It could be a lot of fun. You don't get that with the base game, though. And there are still going to be problems with this one. One, the programmed movement. It feels fake and forced to have to plan 3 actions in a row and then 3 actions in a row. It almost would make, so there's 2 ways that would make more sense. One is the Blue Max way, which is you plan 1 action and you just do it. That leads to some problems, which is, for example, predicting I can't get hit if I do this, yet I might be able to get a shot off. So that kind of tries to thread that needle, making a one-on-one dogfight a little bit more interesting than in most games where you can just pick one secret move. Now the game that kind of gets around that is the old Richthofen's War, which works fine for one-on-one, but it's just not a lot of fun because there's no secret movement there. So you're basically just lining up shot, lining up shot, lining up shot, from what I recall of it. It might be. It was a little bit more interesting in multiple planes. I don't want to go too much into the different aircraft games. Probably one of the most exciting systems out there is Knights of the Air. That one handles non-simultaneous movement, I think, correctly. But I have a real hard time getting a grasp on that one. It's way too complex a game. Wings is perhaps as complex, but the ideas aren't as complex, and that's my favorite of the aircraft games. This one just fails me. For one thing, I gotta buy a different set of cards. 2, I set up these pre-programmed instructions, and now I'm not feeling like I'm flying and reacting quickly the way I should be. I don't quite get that I'm in the cockpit feeling that you would off of a flight simulator, or that you do off of Blue Max even. So this may be a little better competitive. 3, limited amount of damage cards. Hey, the big boom's gone. Until those decks reshuffled, if you're playing a multi-plane thing, you know that you're not going to get shot down immediately by this deck. And the distribution of hits makes it very unlikely that you're going to knock someone out in it. I do like kind of the idea behind it, it's just the implementation doesn't work out as well as it should. Probably the coolest thing about this game is the minis, which I don't have, you know. But there are plenty of different World War I airplane minis. I made my own. You could buy them for other games prior to this, and you can get these. They don't really change anything about the core game system. You can play Blue Max with minis, you could play any of these games with minis, and maybe most importantly, this game doesn't take into account things like altitude and stuff. This is the simplest of games, so in a sense adding more planes to it actually becomes kind of troublesome. So probably the thing that this maybe promises the best with, by taking the pre-programmed movement, is to make plane on plane a little bit more interesting and enjoyable. The problem is, I found that as people learn how to fly the planes effectively, they still can put themselves in positions where they're really unlikely to get hit, even with that 3-turn pre-planning. Maybe maybe there's some kind of additional level of this game that I'm not getting here, but it drags out way too much if people are trying to play to avoid hitting each other. And what we saw is even I wasn't really trying to avoid hitting, and it was still damn hard to line up shots in this game, simply because by the time you have two planes flying, one heading this way, one heading this way, well, they can either just keep rotating around each other, or one does an Immelman and the other one maybe turns in on, and that looks bad, but you end up closing and covering each other up, and you're essentially at different altitudes, and you don't get your shot off. That is both frustrating and eventually exceedingly boring. That's why I bailed out of the game. I don't think there was much more to show out of it. It was a lot more fun playing it opposed when neither of us really knew how to fly correctly, when we were making more mistakes. But it gets kind of boring real quick. So, middle of the second game, I don't think either of us was really learning anything, and we were both kind of able to avoid putting ourselves in dangerous positions. We weren't making the stupid mistakes anymore. I guess the thing that I dislike the most about it has nothing to do with the actual game. It has more to do with the marketing concept. I buy Blue Max, and I got enough stuff to cover 12 different players, each with their own plane, la la la. I don't have to worry about separate decks of cards for each thing. With this, if I want to expand it, I got to keep buying more and more boxes of games. Obviously, having to buy the little airplanes, that adds to the flavor and everything, but that's not necessary for the play. So I don't grump in either case about, I need more minis. That seems perfectly reasonable to have to spend a couple bucks on minis. But I don't know what this goes for. I picked it up used for $5, and I would say I paid too much for, something when maybe I can get Blue Max for $10 in a beat-up copy. I know I've made that bid a couple of times, but people had to withdraw their offer or something. Getting a clean, nice copy, probably somewhere in the $20 to $30 range for that. This just does not have enough game in it to justify paying whatever it goes for new, which I'm sure is more than $5. When there are better things out there on the used market. But it is kind of cute. It seems like an innovative idea, but some of those core design decisions having to do with using cards for everything are what get in the way. And then there's the mechanical aspect of the cards. Covering up, trying to align the movement using the cards. If you're not very dexterous, for example, if you're only using your offhand and a camera at the same time. But seriously, there are people who have some difficulty doing things, even fairly simple dexterous things, and this game can definitely cause problems with that. I don't think I've played a game of it yet where a card didn't get kind of knocked out of place at some point, and I'm sure that'll happen with the minis too, unless they're like magnetized to some surface. So that's what I think about this. Am I terribly disappointed? No, I got some fun out of it, but it wasn't worth buying and paying shipping costs for, is what it came down to. And it also has a big space requirement, a bigger space requirement than a hex encounter game like Blue Max would. To have enough room to actually maneuver with these cards as planes, which are, maybe 4 times the size, 8 times the size of the counters, I don't know. Certainly in area they're significantly larger. You need a fairly decent sized table. Mine's fine, but I can't go to a coffee shop and flip this out, and it feels like a coffee shop style game. It's just too big. It takes up too much space. I'm going to have to find something like a dinner table or a conference table or something to play on. And that doesn't work very well for me. I would want something simple and light like this to be easily transportable and playable on a smaller surface, if possible. Up it goes.